which will ensure that the entire system is online, faceless, contactless, and there will be no hassle for the importer to fill in their details. So sir, with your permission, I would request Moin to quickly do a presentation of the features of the policy, as well as some of the relaxations that we have made or tweakings that we have made in our policy, following which we will request you to launch the online portal. Moin.
So, good afternoon to all members from press. So, to give context, this policy was notified on 3rd of August 2023, whereby 5 specific categories of IT hardware were restricted for import. Thereafter, a transition period of 3 months was provided, which expires at the end of October 2023. So, this is the statistics of the affected tariff lines. There are 7 tariff lines, and the predominant imports are from China, followed by Singapore, Hong Kong, US, and Malaysia. The salient features of the system are that these 5 categories of IT hardware would be covered under the import management systems. The import authorization would be required for the purpose of custom clearance, and this will be issued in an end-to-end online format. The import authorization so issued will contain the quantity and the value of the imports. This authorization will be issued for any number of consignments for imports till the September of 2024. According to the issuance, the quantity as mentioned in the authorization can also be amended in the same manner through an online contactless process. Further, the exemptions provided, this was already notified in August of 2023 that import for repair, return, replacement of IT hardware sold would not require an import authorization. Import of for the purpose of R&D, testing, benchmarking, evaluation, and product development purposes would not require an import authorization. Any notified ID hardware which is required for operating a certain capital good would also not require an authorization. Import under baggage exempt. In addition to baggage rules, one additional laptop, tablet, all-in-one personal computer and ultra form factor computer would not require an authorization. Based on consultation, certain additional exemptions are also being notified. The first one being that for units which are set up in SEZ, which have manufacturing facilities in SEZ, you don't need an authorization for clearance or sale in the domestic area. SEZ units or STPI units which want to import for their own captive consumptions, specifically IT companies, etc., would not require an import authorization. However, this has to be for their captive consumption. This cannot be subsequently sold to the DTA area. Import by the central or state government or by private entities on behalf of the central and state government for defense and security purposes only shall be exempt from this process. Any parts, spares, assemblies which are used for manufacturing this IT hardware are not affected. This is being clarified. This was already there. This is being clarified for information of all concerned.
So, you have one more?
Yeah, a couple more slides.
Process. The online application procedure, you have to navigate to the website, and under import management system you have to select the category as computers, laptops, etc. You'll have to, the firm level details will be automatically populated. The applicant would have to provide the details of the import items, quantity and value wise, and certain summary statistics on the import, export and turnover would have to be provided. Also, whenever the imports are affected against these authorizations, the import details will also be available for the importer concerned, because the bills of entry from customs will flow to our system. Last slide pertains to This entire process is paperless, faceless, contactless. The average time taken should be less than 10 minutes. Your application and authorization issued can be tracked online. This will be issued through a system-driven logic through an automated process, and on issuance, the authorization will be transmitted to the customs port of registration. And additionally, DGFT, in consultation with MietY, will host a weekly web conference on every Tuesday to address to any issues or queries of the stakeholders, importers or otherwise. So thank you, sir. This was the brief presentation.
Thank you, Mohin. As all of you are aware, some of the changes that are coming up in today's application have already been briefed to you. Primary among them are from SZ to DTA. If there is a sale, then they will not require any import authorization. Similarly, EOUs, EHTPs, bringing in IT products will not require any kind of import. So a lot of these have already been clarified. And what is more important is one more. With this, I thank the Secretary MeitY, and I will request him to brief the media for some time, and then we'll take a few questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Santosh. This is based on extensive interaction with the industry and after due consultation with all the relevant stakeholders. We've worked on this new portal and a new mechanism of going forward on affecting import authorization system, the import management system. The idea is to make it as user-friendly as possible, make it completely faceless, make it paperless, make it a completely automated interaction. All the decision points also are completely automated, and it would be almost with complete automaticity that the necessary authorizations would be issued to importers. The purpose of doing this is to first, of course, ensure that the kind of IT hardware we are speaking about, which includes laptops, computers and so on, many of which are already being imported into the country. There is no shortage of any of this for the various purposes for which consumers in the country use it. That is number one. Number two is eventually to ensure that all of this provides us with the kind of data and information we need to make sure that we have a completely trusted digital system in this country. That is something which is becoming increasingly a concern, and therefore ensuring that we have a trusted digital system is an important part of where we are headed with this. And lastly, we are at all times available for further consultations with industry or any stakeholders to resolve any issues. As has already been pointed out, there would be a structured weekly interaction, and in addition to the structured interaction, if there are specific issues which require to be resolved, we are open to sit down and resolving this. the intent is not to cause any kind of inconvenience or difficulty or impose any sort of needless restriction on any of the players involved in this entire exercise. So, in view of the extensive consultations that have taken place and in view of the various further relaxations that have been considered and granted by the government in this entire exercise, it's a tripartite exercise between MeitY as the concerned ministry with electronic hardware, DGFT and the Ministry of Commerce as they regulate the trade, and also with CBIC and the Department of Revenue and the Ministry of Finance. So all three agencies have collaborated in making sure that we put together this seamless experience for prospective importers of equipment. And at the same time, ultimately the goal, of course, is to promote the manufacture of more and more electronic hardware in the country. We believe that electronics will become, in due course of time, in the coming few years, the largest manufacturing sector, not just in India but across the world. And India needs to have a significant presence in this sector, and these measures will enable us to achieve that overall goal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now we can take some questions. I request you to first introduce yourself, your organization, and then one question per person to begin with. So I begin from near my left side.
Sir, just a clarification. So it remains on the restricted list, these 7 items. 2, will there be a definition of trusted source? And 3, you refer to something called entities which are not part of the denied import list. If you could explain that as well.
The denied entity list is a regular process of DGFT in which people who have defaulted in fulfilling either their export cost or have certain cases by DRI and other investigation agencies pending with them. So sometimes on the basis of some prima facie evidence, they are put under the denied entity list. To the best of my knowledge, any of the IT player is not in that list, but I mentioned about that as a matter of abundant caution, that those are the categories where it will not be an automated licensing process.
Restricted list and the trusted source, if there is information.
See, as far as it is under the restricted list, there is no change in that. And as far as the trusted source is concerned, the Secretary MeitY rightly pointed out trusted supply chain. So that doesn't mean monitoring of a trusted source only, but looking at the whole integrity of the supply chain. And for that, we will require some database, clean and clear database to be available with us. So with this import management system in place, we will have clear data of specific products coming from different sources and then monitoring it in consultation with the stakeholders. You would like to add anything?
Yes, sir. I think you've covered the points.
Aditi from Hindustan Times. Will entities be denied? Will specific OEMs or companies be denied, or will entire countries be denied? For instance, will we allow boats from, say, China?
I think my denied entity list has created this confusion. There are schemes of DGFT like EPCG and advance authorization where people would have taken availed that scheme but not fulfilled their export obligation. They are put under denied entity list. Here we are not talking of entities or countries or this thing. So please don't get confused with that.
Sir, and on the question of trusted supply chains, will there be any physical checks or tests carried out on the equipment to ensure its safety and integrity?
Not at the point of import, definitely. Okay, I mean, what happens once it comes into the country, and what kind of those are depending on the end use to which they are put and what happens in the end user's hands. That's a separate issue. That those cybersecurity checks and other checks are done all the time. That would be at the end user end. But at the point of import, there is no intention of subjecting them to any checks.
Hello, Rajiv Jaiswal from HT. What is the trigger for this mechanism to create trusted digital system? What happened all of a sudden that you people have jumped into this?
No,
is it China?
See, the question is, it's an economy which is growing rapidly. Cybersecurity is becoming a more and more critical issue as we go along. And there are multiple concerns. I mean, this is not an overnight concern. Cybersecurity has been a concern for the last a little more than a year at various points in time. And these are not the point is that we have to identify and we have to figure out where most of the risks are coming from. There are a number of other measures in terms of how the internet is used, what kind of malware comes in, what happens. There's a lot of traffic which goes in and out. All of that is sort of has to be looked at in terms of where the malware is coming through various systems. There has to be system-wise cybersecurity awareness which needs to be there. There has to be application-based cybersecurity awareness and cybersecurity issues which need to be looked at. There have to be endpoint issues which need to be looked at. So I think the awareness relating to cybersecurity, all of us were very innocent users of internet and computer devices many years ago. Today we realize that there are risks associated with it, and some of those risks are not just simple risks at the end of individuals in terms of malware, but could be broader risks which have to be considered. And in a digital system, the risks could arise at various points, and this is one of the points where the risks could be. So we have to devise a system where we don't stop using this altogether, but at the same time we are aware of what the problems could be and how they can be addressed. So without restrictions, we are trying to see how best we can address these issues.
Yes, sir. Just a moment.
Good morning, Krishnan. Good morning, Ashwin from CNBC TV 18. I just had a couple of questions. Number one, as a part of the presentation, it said that for import authorization, the quantity and the value have to be disclosed. Does the source also have to be disclosed, and will that also take into account issues of transshipment? That's one. The second is, the presentation mentioned that the import authorization is effective as of 30th September 2024. So are we to assume that perhaps in a graded fashion more restrictions to be introduced post that period? And lastly, there were some concerns raised by US, Taiwan and South Korea before the WTO with respect to the impact that it will in terms of certainty for importers. So just 3 questions.
So the first bit, I think.
On the first part, the application format has a provision wherein he can put the value, he can put the quantity, and he can opt for 10 different countries from which it will be sourced. So at a time, the importer, because these are part of the global value chain, so they would not necessarily be importing from only one country. They could be importing one product from one, another from somebody else. So they can choose 10 countries from which they'll import. So the application format will capture all of this.
So the second part of the question was that whether post September 30th, we are to assume that once the import authorization expires, perhaps there may be in a graded fashion more restrictions to be introduced.
See, the point is that we will study this data. We will continue to interact with our stakeholders, and then we will figure out how to take this forward. So the idea is to give some certainty, at least for the next year or so, that nothing is going to be affected. We are just launching the system and studying it over a fairly extended period, and based on whatever data that we are able to collect, and based on the kind of interactions that we have with stakeholders and what kind of suggestions they come up with, and there are multiple stakeholders in this, further measures will be thought of.
सर समीर दीक्षित 18 से मैं टेलीकॉम नहीं कवर करता, थोड़ा माफ कीजिएगा सर कि अगर कोई सवाल गलत होता है। मैं समझने के लिए समझना चाह रहा हूँ कि जो आप कह रहे हैं कि जो रेस्ट्रिक्शंस होंगे, अगर जैसा उन्होंने पूछा कि ग्रेडेड फैशन है, अगर तो क्वांटिटी की कोई सीमा नहीं है, तो जो आपका मेन पर्पस है कि बड़े प्लेयर्स डेल लेनोवो इस टाइप के प्लेयर्स है वो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट सेटअप करें, अगर तो इम्पोर्टर अनरिस्ट्रिक्ट इम्पोर्ट करता है तो वो मेन पर्पस कैसे आप सॉल्व करेंगे? आप वो एक लिमिट तो तय करेंगे कि आप इससे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्ट नहीं कर सकते, तभी तो उसका पर्पस सॉल्व होगा। वरना लार्जली जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बेस सेटअप करने का गोल है वो शायद, तो इसके लिए क्या कुछ है प्लानिंग की आने वाले वक्त में आप लिमिट सेटअप करेंगे? दूसरा आपने कहा कि जो एप्लीकेशन देगा वो 10 मिनट में अप्लाई कर सकता है, वो अप्रूव कितने समय में होगा? क्या कोई टाइम फ्रेम है उसके लिए?
सर ने आपका पहला पार्ट तो आंसर कर दिया अभी। जो उनका जो रिस्पांस था वो वही समझा रहे थे कि ये जो इंपोर्ट डाटा है वो डिसएग्रीगेटेड डाटा, हम लोग इसको स्टडी करेंगे टिल 30 सितंबर 2024, इंडस्ट्री के साथ कंसल्टेशन में रहेंगे और उसके बाद डिसाइड करेंगे, क्योंकि इसको डायरेक्टली मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बढ़ाने के साथ लिंक करना सही नहीं। हमारा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग वैसे भी हो रहा है, पीएलआई हो रहा है, पीएलआई में काफी सारे एप्लीकेंट्स हैं, वो लोग फॉर्म कमिटमेंट किए हुए हैं ऑलरेडी इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, बट जो ट्रस्टेड सप्लाई चेन एस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए जो रिक्वायरमेंट है, इसलिए डाटा को स्टडी करने की आवश्यकता है और ये इस पीरियड में किया जाएगा। स्टेक होल्डर्स जो हैं उनके साथ कंसल्टेशन करके फिर डिसाइड करेंगे आगे का कार्रवाई क्या होता है। बाकी जो आपका क्वेश्चन रहा अबाउट द इशुएंस एज आई पॉइंटेड आउट विल बी ऑटोमेटेड। अगर वो नया ये नई चीज इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, चाहे वो नया लैपटॉप हो, सर्वर हो, ऑल इन वन कंप्यूटर्स हो, और उनका कोई डिफॉल्ट नहीं है प्रीवियस डिफॉल्ट, तो ऑटोमेटिक प्रोसेस में वो इशू होगा।
सर असीम मनचंदा सीबीसी आवाज से, पीएलआई से जुड़ा हुआ मेरा सवाल है। बहुत सारी कंपनियों ने आवेदन किया हुआ है, तो कब तक उनकी एप्लीकेशन अप्रूव हो जाएगी और प्रोडक्शन हम इंडिया में फर्स्ट कब शुरू होता है वो देख सकते हैं?
नहीं, पीएलआई का जहां सवाल है, हमारे पास काफ़ी सारे एप्लीकेशंस आ चुके हैं, वो करंटली अप्रेजल में हैं और विदिन अगले कुछ 1-2 महीने के अंदर वी शुड बी एबल टू वो पूरी प्रोसेस तय करने की उम्मीद है कि किनको अवार्ड करना है।
प्रोडक्शन व्हेन वी कैन सी बिगिन इन इंडिया?
प्रोडक्शन वो पीएलआई में ही टारगेट होता है कि भाई कितने दिन तक वो यूनिट सेटअप करके कर सकते हैं। दूसरा उसमें ये जो हार्डवेयर का है, द एडिशनल इन्वेस्टमेंट इन्वॉल्व काफी ज्यादा नहीं है, तो आप ये देखेंगे कि कुछ केसेस में ऑलरेडी उनका यूनिट लगा होगा, उसमें थोड़ा मॉडिफिकेशन करके या थोड़ा एडिशनल इन्वेस्टमेंट लगा के वो प्रोडक्शन काफी जल्दी शुरू कर सकते हैं।
सर